worked as a park ranger for a few summers. It was a great job, but the downside was dealing with the public. I have tons of crazy stories, but only one extremely creepy story. I was scheduled to close the park one night with another girl. The park opened at dawn and closed at dusk. The closing duties were to drive around and make sure everyone was out of the park and then close the gates. You had to make sure everyone was out or else they would get locked inside. Christine and I got into a truck together to check the day-use picnic area, both campgrounds, and all bathrooms. When we left Upper Lot, there were no cars in the parking lot of the ranger station, and this is important for later. We cruised around, checked all areas. All was good, so we drove back up to the gate in the ranger station to close up. So I got out to close the gate and jumped back into the truck. Christine pointed out that while we were gone, a Jeep had parked into the parking lot. We thought this was super weird since we hadn't seen anyone park there earlier, but whatever. We parked the truck a couple spots away from the Jeep and got out. We figured we'd just tell the person to leave and then we could go home. As we approached the vehicle, we could barely see someone sitting in the driver's seat. We had dim street lamps, so we knew someone was in there. I waved and got no response, no movement. Christine knocked on the window. The person didn't respond. We both started feeling like something was wrong. I got chills standing there, and we both stepped away from the Jeep, alarmed at the lack of response. We both decided to get our boss, who lived across the street, on site. We weren't supposed to bother him at night, but this was too weird. He got his shoes on and walked over with us. As we were crossing the street, we saw the door to the Jeep slowly open. Then all three of us saw a figure creep out of the vehicle and crawl underneath. All we saw was a shadow, since there wasn't a lot of light. All of us were scared shitless. It was something out of a horror movie. Christine got on the phone with the police while my boss and I slowly approached the vehicle. My boss told the person that they needed to leave and that we were calling the cops. We could see someone sitting under the lifted Jeep near the front tires. The person wasn't moving or responding. Once the police showed up, they were visibly freaked out too. They had guns drawn out and everything. It turned out to be some person tripping on meth. We had no idea why he showed up at the park or what he was doing there, but the cops did find drugs and a loaded gun in the vehicle. After that night, my boss changed all the policies regarding closing duties. He added extra closers and we had to carry mace. It was truly terrifying to witness someone creep out of their car and scramble like an animal underneath. It was like he was possessed. My family has around 360 acres in North Oklahoma that has been in our family since the land rush. Growing up, the family would meet there for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but as the family expanded, it was quickly outgrown. Nowadays, I'm about the only person that goes there, and I went there regularly to train with my firearms. I went there earlier this year and had an experience that shook me so badly that I haven't spoken about it until recently and will never go back there alone. I arrived around 2 p.m. and set up my targets, but something fell off. I use an electronic headset for hearing protection that also amplifies ambient noise, and I noticed that everything seemed to stop. No wind, no bugs, no birds, nothing. Just complete and total silence, which is very unusual for the area. I run my normal drills, and as the sun starts to set, things get stranger. Odd smells, like a dirty litter box, plus body odor, started coming around. I noticed that the coyotes were crossing the field west of me, almost as if they were intentionally avoiding entering the woods nearby. Then, I started hearing interference coming over my headset, what sounded like disembodied voices, speaking in an indescribable language. Now, I'm starting to worry. I started gathering my things. I hear what sounds like a woman's blood-curdling screams coming from the woods. Around the same time, I got what I can only describe as a nauseating, omnidirectional feeling of being watched, shortly followed by very distinct footsteps, trotting through the foliage in the tree line approximately 30 yards from my position. I've been an avid hunter since childhood, and familiar with noises of the woods, and the cadence of the footsteps were indicative of a large bipedal creature, oddly human-like. I pulled my phone out to take a video, and I started scanning the tree line with my flashlight. Standing behind a tree at the edge of the tree line was a tall, black silhouette with spindly limbs and a pale face, looking directly at me. I quickly grabbed my range bag and made a run towards my truck. I get about 50 yards from the truck, and a light post on our property that is hooked up to county power and has never turned off in the 20 years I've been going there suddenly cuts off. Now, I'm blindly running in the direction I believe my truck is in while I hit the unlock button on the fob to find the lights. I get in my truck, speed off, and as I'm watching to the rear view, the light post turns back on. I tend to think of myself as a rational person that doesn't necessarily believe in the woo kind of stuff. Although my mother described me as being sensitive and somewhat gravitated toward energies as a child, I was doing everything I could to rationalize or come up with a reasonable explanation for the things I was experiencing. But I have no explanation. The kind of fear this experience put into me isn't like any kind of fear I ever felt. The story takes place, not really home alone, but when I was little. I remember as my dad was singing us to bed, I ran up first to sneak behind my bedroom door. The plan was to jump out and scare my brother before bed, as my bedroom was just opposite of the bathroom and he had to walk past it to get to his room. However, behind the bedroom door was two strange men hiding. One had a beard and long hair, the other I don't clearly remember, but I think he was very skinny. The guy with long hair whispered to me, "Go away," so I calmly went away and slept with my dad. My mom was working late nights, and this wasn't uncommon for me, so he never questioned it. I was rightly spooked and didn't want to be on my own, but I didn't want to tell my dad what I saw as I was petrified inside. Straight up thought I'd been told off by some creepy ghost. We were robbed that night. My brother also woke up that night to go to the bathroom and saw the downstairs light on from the staircase. At that time, he thought it was our mother. He would normally, if he got up early, run down and see her. For some reason, he didn't go downstairs that night and instead hopped in bed with me and our dad too. When my mom came home, the downstairs was trash and she was terrified something had happened to us. She ran upstairs in a panic and found us all in bed safe and sound. Home insurance was able to salvage most of the losses, and we got a dog not long after that as a deterrent for thieves, which growing up never had another issue again. So I guess not really unexplainable, but strange story. There's a park in my town with a big creek that, at one part, is large and deep enough to be a swimming hole. It's extremely clear, lots of fish and stuff, so pretty cool. And it has a small waterfall where the creek pours into the swimming hole. When I was about 8 or 9, my parents decided to take me and my brother, then he was about 2 or 3, to the swimming hole because it was summer and hot as hell. It had rained recently, if I recall correctly. I'm swimming by myself among a bunch of other people while my parents sit on the bank with my brother, and it's all good because I'm a good swimmer. Well, it was good until I got too close to the waterfall. The current grabbed me and started pulling me in, and I couldn't get out. I was swimming as hard as I could, but there was nothing I could do. It had in me, and it wasn't letting go. It was all I could do to just keep my head above water. I knew I should call for help. There were people there, adults, who were close enough to literally reach over and grab me and to pull me out, and I knew I needed to call for help, but my mouth wouldn't work. I couldn't get the words out. I couldn't see my mom and dad. I didn't know where they were. All of a sudden, there was a kid. He was maybe my age or slightly older. He had a pull float and paddled over and told me to hold on. I grabbed on, and he helped me swim out of the current. I was safe. I thanked him profusely, certain he'd saved my life. Then I went to find my parents. They were on the bank nearby, where they'd been the whole time, watching me swim. I ran up upset, telling them what happened. They were confused. They saw the whole thing, but until I came up, crying and scared and demanding to know where they were because I needed them, they had no idea I was even in danger. 8-year-old me was furious, but mostly because I was scared. Being trapped in the current, within 5 feet of adults who could save me if I could just get the words out, was incredibly frightening. The realization that my parents had been there the whole time, watching me, never realizing I was even in danger, was terrifying. If that boy hadn't come to help me, I don't know that I could have kept treading water long enough for someone else to notice. For the record, I don't blame my parents. They were horrified when they realized what had happened. Unfortunately, tragically, a lot of kids drown while supervised, sometimes within the reach of an adult, because the adults or adults nearby don't recognize that they're drowning. All the more reasons to learn the signs. You might have been the difference between a bad day at the pool and a tragedy. To the kid who pulled the girl out from under a waterfall at Bull Creek in Austin, Texas in the mid-90s, thank you. You made a difference, and I will never forget you.